Thanks for your time, Rod. I really appreciate it. There's no introduction needed as you're blown up all over social media at the moment due to the cat filter with the judge. And yeah, I really appreciate your time. So what actually happened when you started the call to the judge in court?
Well, the call started normally, and my face appeared where it's supposed to when you're in the waiting room. And then when we clicked to go into court, suddenly I transformed into a cat. I didn't know where it came from and how it got there, but we struggled to try to find out how it got there and how to get rid of it. With a little help from the judge, we were able to find the zoom filter and remove it so we could continue the hearing. But meanwhile, I was a little bit panic-stricken to try to present the case in court rather than have the cat present the case.
Have you spoken to Judge Ferguson since this has happened on the phone?
But it's he's like me. He's amused at all the attention it's gotten, but he uses this as an example of how things can go awry when you're doing social media with the courts.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, last time I checked last night, it had over 2.2 million views, but now you're saying it's well over that on YouTube.
Yeah, I think it's well over that now.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, thank you on behalf of the whole world. I have to thank you because it's just put a laugh on, with everyone. And over here in Australia, it's on all the TV networks, all the morning shows. It's just gone viral everywhere. It's
well,
great.
Even though I'm the sort of the victim of circumstance there, if I can help people laugh at my expense, I'll take it, because I think the world needed a little bit of humor after the last few months.
Yeah, definitely. And then you were prepared to keep going in the meeting with the cat face.
Well, I was ready to continue the meeting. Of course, everybody knows my voice over here. It's a small area.
Yeah.
But we're finally able to transform myself back from a cat back to an old lawyer.
Amazing. There's even some reviews on Yelp on your law practice saying, you can claw away your legal troubles. Are you getting a lot of calls now?
Lots of calls have been nonstop.
Amazing. No, I really appreciate it. And one thing that was interesting when I was reading and saw the video, your name stood out to me because I remember a high profile case you did on Henry Lee Lucas, who confessed over to hundreds of murders at the time, back in the 80s.
Yeah, he did. I was a young lawyer in El Paso, Texas. In 1986, I got appointed to represent Lucas in a capital murder case. And the DA expected to get a death penalty on him and sort of shut him up. And I started digging into the case and realized that my client Lucas was a liar. He wasn't a murderer. But of course, after you confess to 300 murders, you're considered to be a pretty bad guy.
Yeah.
So it took about a year's worth of digging to find all the evidence to prove that I could prove where he was when all these murders happened. And I could prove that he was not anywhere close to where these murders happened. So not just my one murder in El Paso that I was defending, but 40 others. I flew in witnesses from around the country to prove that Lucas was not the person who killed all those other people. When the judge heard all of this, he suppressed the confession in El Paso. The district attorney threw out the case, and that was the end of the Lucas legal odyssey.
Yeah. So in 1960, he murdered his mum and served, I think it was 10 years. Yep.
Served 15 years for that. Yeah, look, he wasn't a nice guy. I mean, he wasn't no saint, but he didn't kill 300 people. He was just resentful of law enforcement, and he had such little going in his life. He thought the only thing that could retaliate against him was to feed them all a big lie.
Yep.
But they took it seriously.
And he was on death row at the time for the murder of his mum?
He was on death row at the time for a murder of another person named Orange Socks in Georgetown, Texas.
Okay.
And I proved in my case, and the Attorney General also proved, that he couldn't have committed that murder because he was somewhere else. And based on that proof and what happened in El Paso, Governor Bush ended up commuting his death sentence to life, the only death sentence that Judge George Bush commuted.
Wow. Wow. So that was when he was governor, obviously, of Texas.
Yes.
Okay.
Before he became president.
Yep. Did he ever mention why he confessed to so many murders that he didn't do?
Well, he was being told by the Lucas task force that as long as he kept confessing, they were going to treat him like a celebrity. You know, that he'd fly into each town in Texas Texas State King Air private airplane. Texas Rangers accompany him.
Yep.
They'd take him to steakhouses and hamburger shacks. This is a guy that used to live in the back seat of his Pontiac.
Wow.
And then put him up in hotels. And they told him as soon as he stopped confessing, he'd go down to Huntsville and get the deal.
Wow.
He had a pretty good incentive to keep confessing.
And is that a common practice over there in Texas?
No, it was sort of a black eye back in the 80s, and it doesn't happen anymore. But I think we learned from that lesson.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And that's subject to a Netflix documentary as well that you're on.
Yeah, a couple of years ago they brought it out, a 5-part series on Netflix called The Confession Killer.
Okay, fantastic.
Pretty interesting.
And what happened with all the unsolved murders that he confessed to that he didn't do?
That's the thing that aggravates me about the whole case, because in most instances, the law enforcement won't go back and reopen those cases. You know, even though they didn't have good DNA technology in the 80s, they do now.
Yeah.
And if they'd reopen those cases, they could maybe find out who the real murderer was of all those victims.
So there's currently people walking around that did murder these people that haven't been convicted.
Probably hundreds of murderers still walking around.
Wow, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, I won't take up any more of your time. I know you're flat out, and it's the end of the day over there. I really appreciate you coming on.
We here in Texas love Australia. Y'all are sort of the strong and independent-minded folks like we are here.
Yeah, we love Texas.
All right.
Fantastic. I'm glad to meet you, and we'll stay in contact.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rod.
Bye.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.